Ladies and gentlemen, puppets.
Ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba-ba.
Hello homies, welcome to Thumb Together TV. My name is Andrew Fantasia, and today we're going to be talking about Dark Crystal Age of Resistance together. As usual, if you enjoyed this video, please feel free to give it a thumbs up and give some love to that subscribe button as well. Otherwise, the Skeksis will drain me of all my essence and you'll just be looking at an empty chair. That's it. That's all you'll see. Here's the 411, okay? I didn't see the Dark Crystal movie as a kid. I saw it for the first and only time about 10 years ago. And the only things I remember taking away from it were the puppeteering was amazing. Everything looked beautiful. The Skeksis were annoying as hell, and that the puppets talked in different languages sometimes, and that was pretty neat. That was it. It was just sort of this faded memory. It's a very strange, surreal movie. It almost feels like you're slipping into a dream. It's a slow-boiled movie, even though it's extremely short. The movie's like 90 minutes long. That was all I remember of the Dark Crystal, the OG Dark Crystal. And I've been hearing about sequels and prequels and threequels and all that stuff, and everything keeps getting lost in development hell. And then finally Netflix said, hey, development hell, go to hell. We're making a prequel series, baby. And now finally, after I think 4.5 years of production, we have the Dark Crystal Age of Resistance. We have 10 episodes of this prequel show. And guys, plain and simple, this is the best thing I have seen on Netflix this year. In a year that gave us Season 2 of The Dragon Prince, Season 3 of Stranger Things, When They See Us, in a year that gave us all of those amazing shows, the Dark Crystal Age of Resistance is still my favorite thing I have seen on Netflix this year. And here's why. The Hobbit movies were kind of a long time ago already. I know they feel fresh. They feel like, we just finished watching them, but they're kind of old. Lord of the Rings movies, even older. And since The Hobbit, I really don't think we have had a good, beautiful, sweeping fantasy story in live action. Sure, there are cartoons and stuff like that, but that's as much as we love cartoons, that's a whole other story. To see live action fantasy in, all its beautiful, full color, orchestral glory, that's getting rarer and rarer. That just doesn't happen anymore. The closest thing we really have is Star Wars, but that's still fantasy in space. That's still a different animal. So then along comes the Dark Crystal Age of Resistance, and from minute one, it is everything you love about stuff like The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. It is everything you love about stuff like Krull and the Beastmaster, just made with high definition, crystal clear sound and camera work, and legitimately the best puppet work, period, that the Jim Henson Company has ever done. This is the best thing ever with puppets that you will ever see in your life. There. Take that. I don't care if you disagree. Come at me. This is the best thing with puppets that has ever been made. Just the work put into all the characters and the sets and the creatures and different effects, all of it came together seamlessly, absolutely seamlessly. And yes, there are some spots where CGI was a necessity, but you know what? It's so seamless, you can barely see it. Some people have better radar for CGI. They can just look at a thing and be like, oh, that's blue screen. I hate this now. Thankfully, I don't have that radar, and if I spot CGI, I don't automatically hate it. So every second of this show was enjoyable to me. And then to top it off, it's just a beautiful story. It takes place 100 years, give or take, in the past before the Dark Crystal movie. And if y'all remember the Dark Crystal movie, there's only, I think, like 2 Gelflings left in the entire world, as far as we know. But this is in that juicy period in the past where there were Gelflings everywhere. So you don't just get 2 Gelflings, you get like 8 different clans of Gelfling. And then, of course, you get the other species like the Landstriders and the Podlings, which I love these little guys. The Podlings are adorable. And then you get the Skeksis, the villains of the show, who were the villains of the movie and who are maybe the most annoying things I've ever heard in my life. If you're not watching this show on headphones, if you have this on like the TV or something and the volume is blaring, people in the house may get mad at you because, how do I put this nicely? The Skeksis aren't the quietest things ever made. So people walking by, not paying attention to what you're watching, they are going to look at the TV and be like, what the hell is that noise? Why are you watching screaming constant screaming. So maybe prepare yourself for that. Maybe toss on some headphones so you don't annoy the folks at home who are not interested in the world of Thra. But at least it's consistent, because the tone of the Gelflings and the Skeksis and the Landstriders and all of that tone from the movie, including the way the voices sounded of the characters, it all transitions so well and so flawlessly into this prequel show that you can't help but be impressed by the attention to detail paid. Like, everybody who made this show is a hardcore Dark Crystal fan, and they love the source material, and that shows, baby. That is evident from the first frame of the first episode. And that's a perfect segue to get into talking about the cast. Because at first, I'm sitting there and I'm watching the first episode and I hear all these voice actors and I'm just like, oh, for example, whoever's playing the Chamberlain right now, who was the villain in the movie, he's here too. He's the villain as well. And I'm like, whoever is playing the Chamberlain right now, they must have just found somebody who could do a really, really good impression of the guy from 1982, because they sound exactly alike. Turns out, they didn't just get impressionists, they got a plethora of movie stars who also happened to be able to do these impressions. And some of them, most of them, are so flawlessly, into their character that you wouldn't know it was them unless you looked it up. If you were on the fence of whether you want to watch Dark Crystal Age of Resistance or not, I'm just going to tell you the cast that I can remember off the top of my head. And there are so many good ones that chances are there's somebody in there, at least 2 people in there, that you absolutely adore, and you're going to want to watch this show. You ready? If you tune in to Dark Crystal Age of Resistance, you will hear the voices of Anya Taylor-Joy, Natalie Emmanuel, Taron Egerton, Lena Headey, Helena Bonham Carter, Toby Jones, Bill Hader, Andy Samberg, Hannah John Kamen, Jason Isaacs, Simon Pegg, Benedict Wong, Harvey Fierstein, Aquafina, Keegan-Michael Key, Mark Hamill, Gugu Mbatha-Raw, Mark Strong, and probably about 5 or 6 others that I'm forgetting because I'm just listing off people off the top of my head. And there's so many people in the cast of the Dark Crystal Age of Resistance that it will make your head spin. I went to go look up one character because I was like, that character sounds familiar. I think that might be so-and-so. And as I look them up, all of a sudden I see like 40 names come up on my phone. That's like, oh, did you know so-and-so's in this? And also such and such. But when push comes to shove, when we get to the end of these 10 episodes, the journey that you will have gone on is one that I can only describe, guys, as pure magic. This is the essence of, no pun intended there, I said essence. If you watch the show, you'd know why that's not a pun. But the essence of all those movies from the 80s, all those Dark Crystals, all those Labyrinths, all those just staples of childhood, staples of the adventure, the fantasy, the stuff that was coming out in the 80s that you just don't see anymore. You don't see those kinds of movies and stories anymore. It's all of that wrapped up in a beautiful looking, beautiful sounding, incredibly well cast package delivered to you as essentially a 10-hour long movie. With, I can't stress this enough, guys, the best puppetry Jim Henson Company has ever produced. This is some next level stuff. And when you mix that great classic, like old school fantasy storytelling that you just don't see anymore, mixed with this beautiful puppetry, which you really don't see all that much anymore ever, except maybe in Star Wars now and then, mixed with that beautiful, sweeping, elegant score that takes you right out of planet Earth and sucks you down into planet Thra. Again, you don't hear scores like that all that much anymore. All of that combined, you have a childhood treasure of the 80s somehow sucked through a time vortex and brought right here into 2019 with the best graphics, sound, puppetry, and casting that money can buy. And I can't think of a better combination than all of that. It's like chocolate and peanut butter and ice cream and gold. Maybe I'm going to be blaspheming right now when I say this, but I didn't hate the movie by any stretch of the imagination. I thought it was okay. But this show, Age of Resistance, is a million times better than the movie. It's 10 hours of pure unadulterated joy and fun and wonderful storytelling and dark storytelling. This is, again, true to form. Kids in the 80s grew up with some dark, scary shit, and they could take it because it was wrapped up in a package that came with a moral and came with a happy ending and came with hope and redemption, and it was all balanced out so well, and you just don't see that anymore. This has that. It could not feel more like it was sucked out of that time. And I'll forever be grateful to all the people who put this together for doing so in such a wonderful, wonderful way. So yeah, guys, Dark Crystal Age of Resistance, A+ for me. Best thing I've seen on Netflix this year. We'll see what happens with The Crown Season 3. Maybe that'll unseat this, but as far as I'm concerned, we got a new champion. So that has been Dark Crystal Age of Resistance. Here's hoping Season 2 gets here. I can't wait. It can't come here fast enough. I'm Andrew Fantasia. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you here next time. And until then, adios.